Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited. Isis, All That Glitters. The goddess next door takes on a bikini-clad bank robber in this action-packed all-new Isis series adventure. Get Isis, All That Glitters in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today. One of my viewers wanted me to talk about the Incredible Hulk animated series of 1996. Now, 1996 was the peak of the superhero animated series craze, and the Incredible Hulk was just one of many series that were currently on the air. Now, I remember 1996 being a big year for superheroes, and there was basically a superhero series on basically every channel, and the weekend was filled with so many superhero series that I was basically doing everything to try to tape them all, scheduling them timed on my VCR. Now, I used to collect these series back in the 90s when I had a VCR, and I can remember back then having a really tight schedule in 1996, because in 1996 we currently had Spider-Man, the animated series, which was in its third season, which came on I think about 9:30, and then we had X-Men, which was in season 4, with the Phoenix Saga going on, and that came on 11:30 on Saturday. And in between, we had Superman, the animated series, on the just started Kids WB network, and on Sundays, we had the Marvel Action Universe, which was the second season of the Marvel Action Hour, which was rebranded into the Marvel Action Universe, featuring Iron Man in his second season and Fantastic Four in its second season. And along with the Marvel Action Universe on Sundays came the UPN Kids block, which were also known as the Super Open Adventures. And as part of the Super Open Adventures with the Bureau of Alien Detectors and Technoman came the Incredible Hulk, which was considered to be the flagship of the UPN Kids block, and this also came on along with Transformers Beast Wars, which was in the middle of what I believe was its second season. So if you are a fan of comic books, science fiction, and fantasy like myself and the animated series that are adapted from it, trying to tape all these shows would be quite a challenge. And it was a major challenge for me to try to get all of these episodes and have them on tape, because all of these shows came together, and the Incredible Hulk coming on Sundays was a major challenge to tape because it usually came on about 9:30 in the morning of a Sunday. Now, the Incredible Hulk animated series basically took models from the classic 1970s Hulk and a few of the storylines, I believe, from Peter David, and adapted them into the Incredible Hulk animated series, which took a few hints also from the late 1970s, 1980s Bill Bixby, Lou Ferrigno Incredible Hulk TV show. Now, this Incredible Hulk animated series was not a standalone series, no, not at all. No, the Incredible Hulk animated series was a part of this block of series, also known as the Marvel Action Universe. Now, what's interesting about this Marvel Action Universe is that you had multiple animated series on multiple channels and even in syndication, and all of the episodes linked together to create a loose form of continuity. Now, in that continuity, we had the X-Men, which were on Fox since 1992, and Spider-Man, which I believe was on the air since about 1994, and the Marvel Action Hour characters of Iron Man and Fantastic Four, who were around since 1995, and we had them all being brought together, and they formed this Marvel Action Universe. And in this Action Universe, we basically saw characters from each of these shows making appearance on each of these shows, regardless of what network they were on. That was one of the most fun things about the Incredible Hulk animated series, was that it was a part of a larger world of characters, and because it was a part of a larger world of characters, you could see basically almost any character making an appearance on either character show. Now, the Incredible Hulk animated series was an adaptation, as I said, of basically some of the Peter David run with a little bit of the 70s guy who was basically the guy who was walking down, like the David Bruce Banner character from the Lonely Man from the David Bruce Banner era of the live-action Incredible Hulk, and the books of the Buscema era. So this adaptation basically shows a Bruce Banner who was already established as the Hulk and on the run, and he's trying to find a cure for himself. And as he's trying to find a cure for himself, he runs into the hands of the major nemesises, which were the General Ross and Glenn Talbot from the military, and also has to deal with the leader who has a group of gamma-powered people, such as the Gargoyle and Abomination, working for him, and the leader covets the power of the Incredible Hulk and wants that power for himself. Meanwhile, the Bruce Banner has support from his friend Rick Jones and Betty Ross, who want to help him find a cure, and they, with Doc Samson, are trying to help Bruce find a cure for being the Hulk, as he's being chased by the Hulkbusters, which are led by Glenn Talbot and General Ross, and having to deal with the leader and his henchmen, the Gargoyle and the Abomination. Now, over the course of the first season, we have Bruce Banner, as he's on the run, running into many characters from the Marvel Comics, and characters that were a part of the Marvel Action Universe. Like in the 4th episode, he runs into Tony Stark, who was Iron Man. And in the 5th episode, Innocent Blood, he runs into Ghost Rider. Now, this was supposed to be a backdoor pilot to a Ghost Rider animated series, because Danny Ketch's Ghost Rider was super hot. And that episode was basically meant to get us into the Ghost Rider character and get us into him, because he was, again, they were looking to further merchandise this character, because it was one of the big characters of the 90s. Now, as the series went on in its first season, he had run-ins with Doctor Doom, which introduced the She-Hulk character, and had a run-in with Ben Grimm, and also had a run-in with the Wendigo. But they wanted to feature Wolverine in that episode, but it was cut out because of Wolverine being on X-Men, the animated series. That was one thing they had possibly had an issue with Fox. But everything built up in the first season to the leader coveting the Hulk's power and eventually getting the Hulk's power. But as he gets the Hulk's power, it winds up overwhelming him, and eventually they have to give Bruce Banner back his Hulk powers, and eventually this leads to not the Bruce Banner turning into the Green Hulk like he was for the entire first season, but what it leads to him turning into is the Gray Hulk. And this builds up, and again, in a powerful cliffhanger of that first season, where we see the Gray Hulk at the end of the season. I remember that season just being absolutely fantastic. And that builds into a second season cliffhanger that had people anticipating the second season. Now, the second season, really, I thought it was going to be big and fantastic. Unfortunately, what happened with the second season was that they changed production companies, and UPN, as part of UPN Kids, wanted to go in a different direction with the Hulk series. Now, what UPN wanted to do was they tried to make this show more appealing to girls. So what they did was change it from the Incredible Hulk and change it from being an action adventure series to changing it to becoming a sort of fun series with the She-Hulk attached, hoping that if they had renamed the show The Hulk and the She-Hulk, this would appeal to girls. Now, in addition to this premise change, they changed production companies from New World to Saban, and Saban's animation was a little not that great, because it was coming on the final season of the X-Men, the same kind of production animation, and it's the same animation that was also used in the second season of the Marvel Action Universe. Now, this animation style wasn't one that was appealing to some people, and the Hulk seemed to get the worst of it as related to the animation art. And this second season, really, as it was called, Hulk and She-Hulk, debuted the Gray Hulk, and the Gray Hulk was just another supporting cast member in this show, where Bruce Banner would have to deal with two Hulks fighting inside of him, both the Gray Hulk and the Green Hulk, and we could get depending on what episode, an appearance of a Gray Hulk or a Green Hulk, and the personality of the Hulk depended on which Hulk we got. Now, the writing in the second season wasn't as good as the original first season, which was really based on those Peter David comics, those Buscema comics, and the Incredible Hulk TV series. No, the writing here was a little bit lighter, and as it was a little bit lighter, it just wasn't really flowing as organically as the first season. Now, we did continue to see appearances of superhero characters like Doctor Strange, who came in the second season's third episode, Mind Over Antimatter, and it also, we started to see the other characters coming in. I believe we saw a guy from S.H.I.E.L.D. coming in, Gabriel Jones, but this whole season wasn't really as great because they made a lot of the episodes a lot lighter, and with it having these episodes being a lot lighter, they just didn't have that magic of those first season episodes. But they were entertaining overall for smaller kids and people who wanted to see these characters all together. But the first season, I would say, is one of the best seasons of an adaptation of The Incredible Hulk. It was just like a comic book come to life, and it was just like a comic book come to life because you basically saw the Hulk as a part of a whole universe of characters, and you saw the Incredible Hulk teaming up with different characters as Bruce Banner went on his quest for a cure, just like the comics. I mean, that's what was great about the first season of The Incredible Hulk, and you could see how they were putting so much effort into this Incredible Hulk series. I mean, it reminded me of the high quality of the writing and storytelling that came in the 90s. I mean, The Incredible Hulk was was a really solid show as related to the production-wise, with everything as related to the animation and the writing of the first season. And just like many of the shows that came out in that era, they featured top-notch cast as the voices in the voiceovers. I mean, in that cast, we got Lou Ferrigno playing the Green Hulk. We got Luke Perry, the late Luke Perry, playing Rick Jones. We got John Vernon playing General Thunderbolt Ross. We got Mark Hamill as the Gargoyle, and Matt Fuhrer as Samuel Stearns, and Richard Mall as the Abomination. I mean, we got Richard Grieco as Ghost Rider, and Robert Hayes as Tony Stark and Iron Man. I mean, we really got a top-notch cast playing all of the voices in this show, and that it was part of the standard that we had in the 90s that made this the golden age of hand-drawn animation, because in the 90s with these animated series, they always made an effort to give us a high-quality production with really solid animation, really solid writing of character development, and actors who really had passion for the roles. And the Hulk came out at the tail end of this golden age of animation, and in that age there was just, again, so many shows on the air that these show had to basically be put on Sunday, and it had to be put on Sunday not because it was a bad show, but it was because there wasn't enough slots on the air to feature all of this content. Because I remember being a young adult in the late 1990s, and the schedules for networks and syndication at the time were jam-packed. I mean, you had Fox Kids, which basically had a full schedule on weekdays and Saturday. You had Kids WB, which had a full schedule on weekdays and Saturdays. And you had these UPN, which was just coming out. They had a full schedule. And then you had syndicated shows on the air at the same time, like Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Hercules The Legendary Journeys, Xena Warrior Princess, Sinbad. But there was just so many shows. I mean, it was just a jam-packed schedule. So putting the Hulk on Sundays was something that they had to do because there was no real room in that schedule. And with so many shows on the air, I mean, it was just a golden age if you're a comic or a sci-fi fan, and if you really enjoyed all of the comic science fiction and fantasy. I mean, that time in the 90s was even bigger than the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because we had not only all of these shows on the air, but we had lots of merchandise. The Hulk basically had his own toy line with 5-inch figures at the time, which grew into 6-inch figures, and I had quite a few of those figures in my collection. And I remember there just being so much stuff on the shelf of the toy stores, like Toys R Us, which was on 34th Street in Manhattan at the time, and you could go in there and you could see Marvel figures from X-Men, Spider-Man, Iron Man, Fantastic Four, and the Hulk at the same time. And you could also go to places like KB toy stores and see them on the rack at the Manhattan Mall here in New York. I mean, it was just a big jam-packed way of figures. I mean, you could just basically see a wall of superheroes, with Toy Biz basically even making packaged exclusive figures. So there was something for everyone at that time, and the Hulk series was one that a lot of kids enjoyed, and a lot of adults like myself enjoyed, and I was really happy to be a part of that golden age of animated series, and The Incredible Hulk was one of the better ones. Less being said about the Marvel Action Hour of 1995 with the Iron Man with the organ, but the Hulk was a really solid series that I would highly recommend you go out here and check out. Now, you can find the Incredible Hulk animated series on Disney Plus right now, and if you have a Disney Plus subscription, you can check out all of these 21 episodes of the Incredible Hulk's animated series, from season 1 of the Incredible Hulk to the Hulk and She-Hulk animated series of the second season. And if you want to pick up some of my action-packed fantasy fiction on the SJS Direct imprint and the SJS Direct universe, you can pick up the books of the ISIS series, the Steam series, the John Haynes series, and novels like The Temptation of John Haynes and Eternal Night and the Spinsterella trilogy. You can find all of those books in paperback and Kindle format on Amazon.com, and you can also find all of these books in digital format, not only on Kindle, but in ebook format on platforms like Google Play, Smashwords, Draft2Digital, and the iBookstore. And if you want to see me make more videos about comics, science fiction, or animated series, you can send a donation to the Cash App of a minimum of $15 or the PayPal. And if I know something about that comic or that science fiction or fantasy series or animated series, I'll make that video for you. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.
Now available in paperback and e-readers, E-Steam Horror of the Hyena Woman. Hell's aspiring angel takes on a wicked werewolf in this action-packed all-new E-Steam series adventure. Get E-Steam Horror of the Hyena Woman in paperback and e-readers today.
Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, Godbreaker. The man who rules the world takes on the Asgardian god of thunder in this action-packed, all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get your copy of John Haynes, Godbreaker in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.